Welcome to 99% Pickleball, a podcast by Empower Pickleball. And we're your hosts, Nikki Maldonado.
And I'm Mari Humberg, and we are talking about pickleball beyond the lines. We have a super special episode for you with the legend, Sarah Ansboury. We have lots of good things to talk about. Nikki, super excited for everyone to listen to this episode. What do we have beyond the lines this week?
Ooh, we got a good one. Mari. Oh my gosh, this has been an active week already in pickleball. I don't know if you saw it, but today the Time magazine, I think it's 100 most influential athletes or something? I think I got 100 most influential people in sports. Did you see this? You want to take
We
a
have
guess?
representation.
Yeah, pickleball's on the map, baby. You want to take a guess at whose name was on that list?
I think I know. I've had the pleasure of sharing the court with her.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't gotten a chance of beating her too many times, but
You will.
soon.
You had that,
hopefully.
that like little like roll dink that you had the other day was just so legendary. But anyways, if anybody doesn't know who we're talking about, 3 letters, that's all you need. ALW. Anna Lee Waters made it on the Time magazine's 100 most influential people in pickleball. In sports. 100 most influential people in sports. This is just an incredible achievement. And I just got to say that, you know who's not on this list, Mari?
Who's not on this list, Nikki?
Any men in pickleball. None. Not a single.
Tell 'em.
Not a single man in pickleball. Not Ben Johns. God love him, but my God, he's not on this list because that is a woman leading the sport, paving the future of the sport on her 19-year-old back. So, I mean, come on. This is an incredible moment. I think just not only for pickleball to have that representation, but for women, right? To me, it signals exactly what's so cool about this sport. Women, leading, women being so equal, it's different. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because obviously Anna Lee is the most well-paid athlete in our sport at the moment. And that's pretty cool to see because there is a pretty massive wage gap in other sports still between men and women. I think the first one that comes to mind is basketball. We
Big
see
time.
often, on the news headlines, we see
Mm.
how I'm going to say in quotations here, little the women make. It's not that little, but obviously in comparison to what the men are
Comparatively.
making.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's cool to see. I love that how much exposure she's getting our sport, and just shout out AL for all the work that she's doing beyond the lines. So
Yeah.
that was our first one. Nikki, offline, we were talking a little bit about our following and what percentages were men and what percentages were women. I'm not sure if people are curious about this, but I certainly am. This is something that I like to look at. And I checked mine right before this. I'm currently at 56% men, 44% women in my following. And I'm ready to see it flip, ladies. So if you don't
Yep.
already follow me on social media, go click that right now. I'm doing my best to put out a lot of women's doubles content, mixed doubles role of the woman, and just a little bit more of representation for us because it's more of a male dominated industry at the moment on the content side. So yeah, thoughts, Nikki?
Yeah, so I checked mine as well because you asked me. So mine was, I think 52, it was 52 to 48. Women were actually in the lead for me, which I'm absolutely proud of, but I have a much smaller following than you. So I think that the fact that yours is as high as it is for women is super impressive. But I think it's possible though. Clearly it's possible to have more women engaging. But I do think that, this is something that I've been very loud about in the past. Men just do such an amazing job of not only supporting each other, but just being out there in the social media world for sports specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And while women are there, they're just not quite as vocal. I think there's still maybe imposter syndrome or some confidence lacking, or I don't know exactly what it is, but I want to see that flip, Mari. I want to see your followers.
Yeah.
I'm happy with my kind of, the way that it's spread out right now, but I just want to see more engagement from women in social media. So I'm glad that you brought that up because I actually had never even checked before. I was like, wait, what? You can see that on these?
Yeah,
on
pretty
these
cool
insights?
stats on the back end of social media. We can see all these stats. So if y'all are curious, just let us know. We're happy
Yeah,
to
let's
share.
on the next episode, we'll talk about age. Who's
Age,
following all of us?
countries, all the good stuff. But
Countries.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think it just sends a clear message that there are definitely plenty of women engaged out there and on social media, but we want to see more, which Mari, I think it's going to take us to our third point because I posted a really fun post the other day that got quite a bit of attention. And I was calling out the paddle company Bread and Butter because they hosted something called Nerdy Tourney last week. And what they did was they compiled all of what they claim to be the most popular reviewers, paddle reviewers, content creators, different people in the industry. And guess what, Mari? If you were to look at that Instagram insights, what do you think the ratio would be there? The breakdown, percentage breakdown.
Nikki, I happen to actually watch my co-host's videos, okay? So I do know what's happening.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, there were no women represented on that list.
Mm-mm.
That's what happened. And there was some rioting
There was
on
definitely some
there's some
right.
rioting happening, including from Nikki, but others joined. Obviously,
Hmm.
I wouldn't have known about this if it wasn't for you kind of putting the news out there. So much appreciated, but not cool. Not
Yeah.
cool to host a tournament with. I mean, if you make it a men's doubles tournament specifically for some reason, but you're claiming these are the biggest content creators and influencers, and you don't include any women with actually a lot of women being involved in the space already. So, yeah, negative points for bread and butter.
Yeah, I just yeah, seriously. I
Eh.
just think that they could have done a better job. The thing that the rationale that they, I think are approaching this with, I think there were one or two people who defended them and they're saying, well, there aren't that many women reviewers, right? Paddle reviewers, which okay, that's fair. However, they didn't only include paddle reviewers. And also, who cares? You could, if you really, really wanted to, you wanted to make an effort, you could just bring in content creators as well. I think that they it's their company. They can do whatever they want. And so I think to say if they were solely limited, if there was something that said only paddle reviewers allowed, or I don't know, something like that, but right, but they didn't. And I think that regardless of that, because there, to your point, are enough women in the content creation space, could have done a better job. So I was super disappointed to see that. Bread and Butter is a super cool company. They have amazing, media, marketing, advertising, all of that on social media. But I think that they definitely, this was a huge miss. And I think that they need to do better. And I would love to, the other thing is, I would love to hear from them about this. I saw that they engaged with my social media post. I saw that they saw it,
Call them out.
but I didn't hear a single word from them. They actually even liked, there was somebody who was defending their post. There was one woman who was technically invited. She backed out, but she kind of defended them and they liked her comment, but they didn't engage with my post otherwise. So I'm a little
Nikki,
disappointed about that.
if you're seeing who's liking your comments, you are deep into social media.
Yeah, yeah. It's only a certain one. Certain ones where I get fired up, where I get heated up. I'm
Mm,
like, I want to know who's doing this. I want to know who's in there. But I just found
fair.
that
Fair
particularly
enough.
interesting. A lot of people liked yours. I wish they would have liked your comment. I think that would have been good. But
Hey, thank you.
I think, full circle, right? This sport is so different than any other sport. And I think all sports obviously should have men and women equally represented, both on the courts and on the fields and all of that, and also on social media. But this sport is, we started off this conversation talking about ALW, right? There are so many women, powerful women. I'm talking to one right now out there on the courts who are paving the way, leading the way. Women are more well known on the pro stage than men. If you ask any rec player, first of all, they can't name a ton of pickleball players, but I guarantee you when they do name them, more than likely it's going to be a woman and one of them is going to be Mari Humberg. No, but I
You're
think,
not biased or anything.
not biased. I'm not biased. But I say all of that because if that's the representation that we're seeing on the pro level, that's the representation that we're seeing out in the courts. We're seeing it, everybody who's playing. There are tons of women out on the courts. It's not just on the pro level, in the amateur level, in the rec level, everywhere. There are women all over the place, all over the sport. So I think we just need to work to see more engagement, more interaction, more activity from women in social media, in the media space. What do you think, Mari?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. And this is not us trying to push the men down here. Okay. We really
No,
appreciate the
they're doing a
engagement
great
and
job.
you watching our videos and you being active on socials. But ladies, we got to step up our game. We got to
Yeah.
make sure that we are also consuming pickleball content. I think that there's so much good stuff out there and there's also pretty bad stuff out there. Let's
There's
not
definitely plenty of bad stuff
pretend
out
that
there.
there's not bad stuff. But yeah, let's get more involved. Nikki and I love to talk to fans, love to talk to people in the community. So shoot us a message. Let's get
Yep.
the conversation started. And
We want everybody.
I want to reach a larger percentage of women followers than men followers. That is a goal by the end of 2026. We will check back in.
Yes, let's see if we make it happen. And yeah, I'm glad that you said that, Mari, because this is definitely not knocking men at all. Matter of fact, it's the opposite. I am envious. I think that men are doing an
Mm.
amazing job. The boys really got this thing down, and I want to learn from them. I want the women to take notes and say, yeah, let's get in on that too. So great job to the boys. Ladies, let's take notes and let's get it done.
Listeners, enjoy this episode. It's going to be a good one. Sarah is great.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of ladies on the pickleball courts, we got a legend on the courts, Sarah Ansboury. Let's get her in here. Let's chat it up.
Welcome, Sarah, with the coconut water. I'm actually also drinking coconut
Yes.
water. So cheers to that.
Oh,
Nikki,
I just have Essentia. Who wants to sponsor us? Coconut water? Some type of coconut water?
we'd love that. But welcome, Sarah. You're our first guest. We're so glad to have you here.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Sarah is a legend of the game. I actually watched Sarah play before I ever played a pro tournament. I don't know if you knew that, Sarah. You started a little before I did, I
A little
believe.
bit.
Do
Yeah.
you want to enlighten our audience with who you are and a little bit of your history in pickleball?
I was, I think, one of the first technical pros of pickleball. It was like me, Irina, Simone, Kyle. We didn't make any money for a while. There was even a couple of tours that we tried to make happen prior to the big tours, like all that. And
Ooh.
so I've basically been around since the beginning. I've always been educator. And so at the time, like there's no facilities in pickleball. There was no courts. There's no education. I was a tennis coach, and so I didn't know about pickleball. And so I actually toured the country for like 2 years in RV and basically taught pickleball all over the country and in random places. And I just learned as much as I could about pickleball, honestly. And that's how I got to tournaments and stuff. And then I ended up basically, the tours happened, all that. And I also came on to write, one of the biggest curriculums in pickleball with PPR and still kind of toured and everything, but made a home base. And so that like has been the journey. I basically just finally switched, from playing because, I'd been PPA contract pro for a while. And, I also wasn't able to play that much. And so coaching became the priority. So I just switched over to a commentator full time with the PPA. It's a big difference than where it's been over the last 11 years.
Wow. Okay, I have questions, and I'm assuming, Nikki, you do too. Let's start with you said, early days and when everything started. Just for reference for everyone to know, what year was that? Because
Yeah,
I
that's
started in
exactly what I was
22.
wondering.
Yeah, so I started playing. So I'm from the Northwest. So like I think that's mostly why like I got into it sooner. It was like
Mhm.
all of our tournaments were like Utah, Arizona, Northwest. And a few of us tennis players had just kind of started, playing in about 2014, 2015. And so I
14.
had no idea. Like we had a pickleball club. They'd been around for years. Like it was very organized. Like a guy named Mike Wolf, who's the president of the pickleball club, was 78 years old. He taught me how to play pickleball. And like credit
Wow.
to this day, like when I was winning nationals, he was also there like multiple times. Like
Wow, that's awesome.
just like it was such a different time. It was more about like growing the sport than anything. So paddle contracts were just kind of the only money we were getting. And so like that was very new. We were just signing those contracts. So I won nationals the first time in like 2015, and then the US Open was 2016, and I won like 5 medals at US Open in 2016, the inaugural year. And so that's changed immensely since like that being
Wow.
one of the first primary, big kind of money tournaments to like now where we have like tours and like it's a lot steadier across the board and much more obviously popular.
I mean, you've experienced, almost like end to end where this game is at this point. I mean, it's still growing, obviously, but it's so funny that folks, I know a lot of folks who have been around for both sides, right? Who've been around for longer, more years. And then some folks, even like me, who've been around less time. So I'm still in the honeymoon phase. But like, you've seen this game grow so much that so many of us haven't seen. What do you think has been like the biggest shocker, the thing that you're like, whoa, I cannot believe from where we were to where we are now? And again, the sport is still in its infancy, but
Mhm. Well, I will say first, like as much as like I've been around, like some of the guys that I learned from, like Steve Peranto, like I mean, his
Mm.
dad invented the first composite paddle. Like they did the first tournaments. Like so, I gotta admit, like there was those old timers that we like learn from. I mean, they're in their 80s playing pickleball, like telling us about like the very first rule book, the very first like, all this. There's like like a respect factor that you like learned and you shared and you grew from there. So I think like that's not something everybody experiences to the great amount that I think I got to experience. So I do appreciate that. I get to see this now. And honestly, this like the stupidest, weirdest thing that I think it is the fact that Toys R Us was the main sponsor of the finals at PPA. Like that's what I can't get over. Like I've seen a lot of things happen in this sport. Like I've
Did you
seen
know like Jeffrey the giraffe?
Come on.
I was at a booth and I looked up and I was like, dude, there is a giraffe and like no one saw it but me. And I'm like, how are we? Like, and like, no, he's there. Like, like he's there. And he was a woman. It was a 19-year-old. I found out who it was. Like, one of the. Yeah, so like I checked out her social media page.
Wow.
She's freaking awesome. Like, like good for her. Like
Good for her.
It's, just a young girl, just super enthusiastic. But I mean, I said it on air. I said, I cannot believe I'm saying this right now, but this is the Toys R Us PBA finals. Like,
This is amazing.
it's fantastic, but it's something that like when you don't have courts to play on, like when you go to 3 states to play pickleball tournaments, like you're playing in like 50 plus communities, everything is like on Facebook. It was popular, but just in like a cult way. But it was a very different culture, in lots of ways. It's cool. I mean, it's amazing that something like that, is a big part of pickleball today.
Yeah, you really watched it grow. Before, Mari, I'm sure you have more questions, but I just want to say, number one, that was an extremely unexpected answer, and I'm very happy with it. But number two, I do want to say that I think I put this on my page as well. We have to petition to get more Jeffrey. Like Jeffrey has to be, and now knowing that Jeffrey is a young girl, like girl
Apparently,
power.
it was like a day job. It was like a gig. Like
Yeah.
they were like, hey, can you come be
Hire
Jeffrey?
her.
Like she was
She
traveling.
was amazing.
Yeah,
Such
right?
good
Like,
energy
that's
for
what was
pickleball.
like, I
Yeah.
was like, come
So,
on. Like,
not to spend too much time on that, but I do want to say that makes me even more hyped for Jeffrey, that knowing girl power. Anyways, Mari, I'm sure you got some questions.
Yes. No, that's awesome. I'm very supportive of the Jeffrey conversation. But anyways, Sarah, you mentioned PPR.
Yeah.
And you said that as if the whole world knows what it is. I
Yeah.
do know what it is.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. But if you could help just clarify what that means and what that curriculum was that you helped build and kind of when your journey of teaching started, because I know you said it was early on. Obviously, you taught tennis before, but that's going to kind of lead into our main topic, which I can't wait to get to.
When I first started playing pickleball, I did not teach right away. Like I was like, I don't know the game enough.
Were you still working?
I was still working. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah. And so, and I was, mind you, I was teaching a lot and stuff. So I had the flexibility that I could do it. And I had a lot of people that wanted me to do it, but I was like, let me learn about the sport. So it took like a year or so, but like in that time, I realized like, cause I was like, okay, there's no certification, like there's no structure essentially. Like there was USA Pickleball and it was like a volunteer basis. It was all ambassadors. So honestly, from then I started writing a curriculum. Like I knew I would use it at some point. And a lot of it too is because at the time, like I always say, like going back to the West Coast is kind of like going back in time with pickleball. There's a lot of like old school fundamentals that still exist. Whereas like, it's a big reason I even ended up on the East Coast because you didn't have all those like bad habits of like, this is how we did pickleball as a hobby that wasn't good for your body and was creating injury. And there's so many better ways to do it. Like, so I've always been a technical person in tennis. The coaching was my thing. So I started doing it and I had a couple of organizations approach me to do it. So PPR was as a branch of PTR, which is the Professional Tennis Registry. And so that's actually why I decided to go with them. I said, we need tennis facilities that are going to be willing to try pickleball, and they won't trust it unless there's a tennis agency that does it. So I felt like that was very important. So we built the curriculum. We created like a sustainable, system. At the time, I was not willing to kind of work full time for PPR because I was number one in the world at the time. Like it was pretty. Like, I was like, I'm not quitting, what I'm best at right now. And you don't want me behind a desk kind of thing. So I just was the lead educator for this. And then a few years back, they brought me on to kind of run it. And that's what I did. And so I focused on the international growth and the expansion of development. So it became the largest coaching certification in the world. I spent a lot of time building in Asia and Southeast Asia and basically growing pickleball on the international front through kind of the coaching and facilities standpoint. So that took up a lot of my time. And so I did leave PPR a month ago, but they are still, there. And there's definitely a lot of other elements that are coming into pickleball right now with some of the tennis entities. And so I think having some more purities to pickleball is pretty important right now.
I did not know a lot of that. So that's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah, I could write a history book. Like, and I
Should you?
I mean, maybe you should.
Maybe you should. Yeah. You heard it here first. Yeah.
will happen at one point. I still feel like I'm too young to do that yet. So
Okay,
No, I
so let's give it a couple more years and then you'll get
maybe,
right back
hopefully,
to it.
yes,
or
yes,
something.
yes. No, I mean, it just blows my mind. Again, a lot of this podcast is going to come back to pickleball in its infancy. Like, we're literally here with someone who wrote the book of curriculum, right? Like how incredible is that, making your mark on the sport? And Mari, not to jump ahead, but to segue into the international stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to have some questions on that. So I'd love to open it up to you, but I just want to say that, we forget how far ahead we are here in the States.
Yeah.
And I always say, hey, California, Texas, Arizona, Florida, you forget how far ahead you are. Because here in New York right now, it's almost like pickleball is brand new. It's booming. And that's here in New York. But the international scene is totally different. So to hear you growing the scene internationally is so inspiring. So Mari, I'm going to kick it over to you to ask some questions about that.
Yeah, first of all, Sarah, I feel like I'm kind of taking the lead that you started, especially for the women in the education part of it. And education is something that's very meaningful to me as well, and I really enjoy. I've been teaching clinics nonstop, and I've now taught in 5 countries, which is pretty cool for me too. Being from Brazil obviously helps. I do go home to visit family, so I'll actually be there next month, and I'll do a couple of clinics too. And obviously, I speak the language, so you can't quite teach in Portuguese yet, I would assume.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, Nikki, you mentioned the difference in states is already huge, but the difference in countries, until you go see it, you don't realize it, right? And Sarah and I know this. I mean, I went to Brazil and I hit with them, and they're like, these are our highest level players, when I first got there. And I was like, wow, and the talent's there. That's not what I'm questioning, right? People are talented. People played tennis before. They just don't know, right, Sarah? So to your point, like, having that curriculum and having that understanding of how the game is played and actually teaching it the right way is so important. So talk to me about, first of all, when did you start the international journey on that? And what was a couple of the coolest experiences you've had so far? Because I've had a few that I'm like, wow, that was awesome.
Yeah.
You
Well,
probably have some good ones for us.
yeah, I think I feel like I've been very lucky that I've got to experience so much, because it's like you said, like until you're there, you don't really get it, because each culture is different, and so how you teach is different. Like, these standards are different, and also just, I mean, even everything that surrounds it, like it's, how you travel. So we launched PPR in 2018. And the biggest reason that was a big deal is because the PTR side had international. There was offices in China, in Italy. And so that was really important. But it took a while to convince them to even try to add pickleball to the curriculum. And so it was probably around 2020 was going to be the first trip actually to China. And then COVID, like, there's lots of things that kind of stopped that. And so Italy ended up being the first country that I started going to regularly. And honestly, that was like one of my favorite experiences in itself. What happened was Italy set up their first pickleball tournament. And this is where I think it's also different in each country, because let's say in Italy, the Italian Tennis Federation, they run pickleball. We don't, like, a lot of countries don't have the resources. So like that's where a lot of the skills differences come from. Is the sport even recognized by the government and the country? Because that comes with funding and that comes with certain things. So even though Italy, like, the skill level was same thing, it very low, and mostly a lot of like tennis centric, but with like not understanding the introduction of it. I always kind of joke, like, Americans are never the best in like racket sports, but like we're the best right now in pickleball, so we have to take advantage of it. Like, it will never happen again. So so the first, like, it was their first pickleball tournament the federation was running, but they were running it at the ATP men's finals in Torino.
Wow.
So like, it was the like most beautiful setup of courts I'd ever seen, and they marketed it was so like, here's your stadium. So like, I got to bring my wife with me, and like, it was her first like tennis match, mind you, she had ever gotten to see, which like, I know Mari knows this, like, I don't know, Nikki, about your tennis, but her first match she got to watch was Djokovic in center on a center court. And it was,
come on.
Tennis is ruined for her. She can never go to another match again.
And it had this like stupid show, like at the beginning, like this amazing violins and light. And it was just so like, it was incredible. So like, you have the stadium, and then you have like the quad kind of thing, and then the vendors. Okay. And then you have these 4 pickleball courts, and you have to walk through the pickleball courts to get to the food. And
Wow.
so it introduced people to
Mm.
pickleball so well in the rackets community. Like I've been going there for like 3 years, and each time I go, they're like, I saw you first in Torino at the men's final. It was the first time I saw pickleball. Like, so that's incredible to me that I get to be a part of this like journey, for these people. And I find like, I do come from that beginning of like people like the love of the sport.
Mhm.
And I do feel I did get like, you grind on the pros, you grind on everything else, and you don't have a lot of money like to support that, at the time. And so it's disheartening a lot. You lose like the drive for competing, and those types of things. And just as the game changed, it was hard for me to sometimes like connect with it. But when I started traveling internationally again and started like teaching people like from the beginning, it completely reinvigorated me in like the
Mm.
sport of pickleball, because it's still such a new phase for everybody. Even though we're only like in the first inning here, like that's what people don't understand. Like you and I, Mari, come from education. Like
Right.
there's a purpose for technical. It's so that your body doesn't get hurt. It's so that you're more effective. There's all these layers that go about it. It's easily to improve someone, but there's a mass group of people like in the US that think they know everything about pickleball. And so it's detrimental to a lot of our players right now. And our coaches have been creating a lot of damage. I won't lie.
Mm.
So when you have other countries, what I really respect about that is they're wanting to go about the right way. Like here in the States, we focused on adults and competitive first. We completely ignored youth and recreation and parks and rec.
Right.
Yes.
What's important about other countries, and like I always say, like learn from our mistakes. Like we need a program, we need grassroots, we need how to develop, we need to like, we need this whole process. And so that I think is amazing, because like each time I go to a different country, I get to learn about like how they learn, and I get to like learn new things and, teach people, and you see all this like amazingly quick improvement. And so I think that's like incredible. I mean, I could give you like 100 like very strong memories of like experiences I had with coaches that I like value so much, or just people. But like I mean, I've climbed the Great Wall of China. We'll say like probably my most surreal thing is every time I go to China, every night it's like a big dinner. And it's with, all the coach develop, all the like educators. And, after a class or something, there's, everyone kind of going around like what they learned. It's because, they're the ones that are like educating all of these coaches learning to be coaches. And a lot of times those people can kind of like think that they know it all. And so I found so much value. They go around, they said, this is what I learned today. And that like was, I mean, top 3 experiences without a doubt, just to be able to see that like environment and see the passion of people and their priorities and kind of stuff. So I think
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I've gotten to experience so many different cultures in so many different ways, essentially.
Yeah, Mari. So, oh my gosh, so much to dig into there. I have like a billion questions now. But something that I want to connect even back to what Mari said earlier, and it connects to what you just said, Sarah, is like you talked about like the skill level of international players right now, and you even mentioned like former tennis players. What I find is particularly interesting and such a cool opportunity is that we can, yeah, we're seeing it here in the States, and this whole new generation of kids who look at Tama, right? They have zero tennis background, who are
Yeah.
coming in as just absolute total beasts out there. And I'm so excited for this. And not, again, no shade to tennis. I play tennis. You guys
Yeah.
play tennis. So love that. But it's just such a different, they can learn those mechanics that you're talking about, Sarah. And they're, I mean, just absolute, just maniacal out there with their talent. It's incredible. And I'm so curious about that. Are you seeing that this international growth, are they getting more tennis background players who are having to learn that, or are they getting more starting with pickleball and learning from there?
Starting with pickleball, which is so like, yes, we use a lot of tennis mechanics, but there's also a
Mhm.
lot of really bad habits that get generated
Mm.
with, because also the same issues in tennis and pickleball. The biggest thing that I think of with like teaching people with pickleball in a tennis style is, why is pickleball like so popular for so many people, is it's easy to learn. And then you
Mhm.
have people that are rigidly teaching tennis style of play. So now the learning curve is actually more difficult, and the frustration goes higher, and they don't realize like it's their kind of square hole peg into a round hole kind of thing. And so I think there's massive benefit, and they're learning from the beginning. I mean, I've experienced schools in different countries and just the youth. And when I launched launched the youth development certification in China, there's a 10-year-old that came all weekend with his dad. And mind you, I always have a translator. And so that is tougher, that you don't really, it's a little tough. So this kid spoke zero English, but he became attached to me like at the hip. I don't have a way to communicate with this kid. So what I started doing was I started like, first we were doing like hand-eye coordination things. Like I was just playing with the ball a little bit. And then I was like, he's really into this. And so then we started doing like, I did a trick with my paddle and then he would copy it. So we do like a follow the leader kind of thing. Let me tell you, the paddle skills of this 10-year-old is better than most adult paddle skills that I've seen in like anywhere. Like I was just like, that was one of like amazing experiences that I will absolutely never forget.
That's awesome. I mean, that's so cool that you're getting to, obviously the new generation is what terrifies me. They're going to get me out of my job. Okay. So slow down, give me
Yeah.
a few years.
Cut it out.
But yeah, I always say I'm old for the
Yeah.
pro world, right? I turned 30 in a month and these kids are like 14, you
Yep.
know? So it's a big difference. It is really cool to see from a fan of the game and lover
Yeah.
of the game perspective, but as a pro, you hate to see it.
Oh yeah. I mean, believe
Not
me,
gonna lie.
believe me,
Full
even
disclosure.
I was playing against Anna Lee when she was 12. Like it was weird. And that was like the first experience of it. And now you're like, okay, but like these kids, they don't have bad habits. They're more moldable. They're more flexible.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's just, I mean, honestly, I feel bad for pros now. Like you, like I came in at a perfect time. Like,
Thanks, Sarah. That makes me feel better.
like,
Sorry, Mari.
I
Sucks
don't
to
know.
be
Yeah,
you.
I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna
Yeah,
be
I think
okay.
you need to
I still have
like,
power to
yeah,
usually run over them for a little bit longer, and then they'll get to me eventually.
yeah,
But
100%.
anyways, I still on this international stuff fascinates me because again, it's something that I'm trying to spend time on, and I've been doing a lot of work on as well. Where do you see obviously the goal? I think everyone in pickleball wants this, right? We want the Olympics. I need it to hurry up too because right now I would play for Brazil, okay, but who knows in the next few years
Yeah.
I might get bumped out of there. So I need them to hurry up. Where are we at? You explain to me, we say we hit the 75 countries number. We hear that and they're like, what does that mean? There have to be federations. Who's in charge of this? Where do the decisions come from?
So this might be not a great opinion right now, but I think the Olympics is short-sighted. I understand that, everybody has like, yes, let's go. But like, okay, so let's think about success. Like, let's think about breakdancing. Okay, breakdancing got put in there. It's never going to have a chance again. But guess what? Breakdancing is more popular than pickleball. So sorry about it. Like, that's reality because Olympics is about numbers. Like, it's about
Right.
different types of things. So, you have the Global Pickleball Federation, okay, but you also have the levels of countries, which not all of these countries are official federations or associations. Yes, here in the States, we are very far along. Yes, some countries could compete in the Olympics. Maybe the UK, Italy, Spain, China's now getting there, but still, let's be real. There's still a big gap, like in
Right.
skill level across the board. But there's also what about these little smaller countries that have no resources? You have Greece who can't barely get balls, to them. And so when you have distribution issues everywhere in the world, where at one point, so this is like 2 years ago. I had a coach in Sweden. She's like, I'm paying $14 a ball because that's all they can get. So for me, when I'm thinking, hey, these countries are barely getting courts, like, take Brazil. Like, Brazil is still very infant in their pickleball. Like, it's
Right.
like
The growth has been crazy over the past 3 years, which is when I've been going back and playing it there. So it is cool to see, but you're right. It's still very far behind.
you
early.
have a lot of countries that don't have designated funding. And so let's even just take like, okay, like American softball in the Olympics. Why does it not exist? Because we always win. Like, it's not fun for other countries when you are only having one country that's primarily winning. And so like that becomes an issue. There needs to be equality. Like there needs to be a more equality for it to be like a focal point. So, my issue becomes now we're spending funds on making something happen for the Olympics and we could be spending funds on growing youth and putting it in schools and doing things that are going to help our future players of pickleball, not just our current players of pickleball. So I get it, but it may be an unpopular opinion. Like, cause me at the heart of it, like, yeah, of course, like pickleball is my sport, there is that. But from let's look big picture. Like, let's look at like, what are these issues? Like I get people that send me pictures of their courts, like all over the world. like dirt courts that people play on, like 1 court per town. Like, yes, we're getting there. And a lot of these countries are organizing, they're funding better, but there are some countries that you've got 2 associations or 5 associations. When you have this, so like, let's take Australia. Australia has Pickleball Australia and it has Tennis Australia. So,
Right.
you have Pickleball Australia that's existed for quite some time. Tennis Australia has been around even longer, but they are a tennis organization. So now you have them trying to come in. So now you have, the fight. So this is where I think, like, in the end, we may lose out because
Mhm.
the focus has become things that are like they're short term, rather than like long term, like success. I guess. I could go
Yeah.
hours on that one, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, Sarah, I hear you, but I'm gonna go ahead and just say that you're wrong because no matter what, we just need Mari to play in the Olympics. So who cares?
Thank you,
Who cares
Nikki.
about the future of pickleball if we're growing it the right way? No, but you're welcome, Mari. No, I think that's a super. It's a hot take, but I think it's a great consideration. I will say I'm curious. It makes me think about like other sports, right, that were created in the States, things like basketball, for example. And now it makes me want to go do my research and wonder, like, I mean, obviously you had the dream team, right? How long were we just absolutely crushing and still
Yeah,
are to some
when's the
extent?
last time the US lost in basketball?
I think Argentina, was the one of the only teams to beat the US, right? And so, but yet in that instance, I feel like the Olympics kind of almost helped grow it internationally to some extent.
Well,
And
they were already
so,
organized though before they came in. Like, they had
yes,
a higher rate of organization in
yeah,
Right.
universities, so there's a difference.
yeah,
Like,
no, totally fair,
when,
totally fair. Yeah,
when you have, let's say just college scholarships exist versus they don't
right,
exist. And so,
Right.
because
yeah,
essentially, like, you
That's a
think
good point too,
like
Sarah. The
you
college part of
think-
it, I
right.
think is big.
I
yeah,
mean, I'm
yeah,
assuming you came from Brazil and you went to college in the US, and
hmm,
this
Played
created an
tennis.
opportunity for Ari to come here and, create a career. And so that
yeah,
is something that we have in, pickleball yet. So it's like, okay, is it more important to focus on people like potential Maris? Like, that's how I see it.
yeah.
What if we found like 20 more Maris and we were able to support that?
That's impossible.
How? How? I already asked if we could clone Mari on the last episode, and she said
You don't
no.
want to do that.
Yeah.
That would be a lot.
No, I think it's too much, too much. No, I think it's a great consideration. It's all of this is stuff I hadn't really thought about. We're all just pushing because we want to see it and we all just want to crush. One other thing I will say there is I do think that you just said it, like the US has only so much time left before we're getting crushed in pickleball. I mean, Asia is already like, Vietnam, right? Vietnam, PPA was just in Vietnam and we're already starting to see that the competition over there and you're seeing how popular it is. But, that is still so rare. I'm actually wearing my Mexico jersey because I was just in Mexico City. There
Nice.
you go, represent Viva Mexico. And it was just really, really interesting to see Mexico City, 22 million people, right?
Yep.
Bigger than New York. And I could not find pickleball courts. It was
Yep.
so difficult. And
Hey,
I did find them. I did find them. Don't worry. I did.
okay.
Yeah. The only indoor courts were like an hour and a half outside of the city. So I couldn't go there. It was all outdoor courts and they were mostly in, there's a lot of public, just kind of park courts, which aren't real, by the way. They're all just
Yep.
chalked on. And then I did find one actual established, the Pickle Co. Fantastic. They're still building. They just opened in February. Amazing courts, but they're like just barely building and they're having a hard time with that. And this other place that's about to open is going to be a 2-floor, beautiful, stunning thing. And right now it's just asphalt. And by the way, my paddle got destroyed by play. We played on it and my paddle was just totally had like little chunks
Gone.
taken out of it. Yeah. The ball had like spikes of asphalt in there. Anyways, but it was a great experience. But my point is just like this massive, massive city, so many people, like they're about to boom, but it's still wildly difficult to find pickleball. And there's a desire for it. And right, paddle, on the other hand, there's like hundreds and hundreds of courts everywhere. But I think that you bring up a really good point that we would think here in the States that they're so much more advanced than they are.
Well, so like the US, like one of the biggest reasons we got a kickoff is because we had so much land. Like we had so many tennis courts that we could convert. Like that's why in California, like
True.
there's a lot of lacking area. In like New York, it's difficult, on there. So it was an easier access point where most countries have trouble building structures, first of all. And like,
Oh,
in tennis, we have different surfaces that kind of go through, but like,
I was about to say in Brazil, we almost only have red clay. So to
yep,
transform a court over to pickleball, you can't just
nope.
Ooh,
put the
that would be
lines. You have to
painful.
switch out from red clay to hard.
So this is like,
That's a
you got
great
places in
point.
Mexico, what you're looking at is how is their like government
Mhm.
They have a lot to do with like here in the States, we do sports way differently than most countries. Most countries have like an integration with the government and a bigger support structure where like with the schools and there's kind of requirements with that, where here in the US, we have state by state and it's kind of like do what you want to do, but there's no like funding. It's very divided. And so
Mhm.
that has a huge part to do with kind of the growth of it, because we do have a lot of Americans going to some of these countries and they're building like businesses and that kind of stuff. But then like what happens when the government kind of decides, okay, now it's our turn and we're just going to like, change off. So like if paddle is more successful and they have more of a structure there, then they're going to fight to keep that structure and not bring in
Right.
something new and undefined. So it's tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. Mari, I know, you probably have many, many more questions, so I wanna open it up to you.
First one, Sarah, how do you feel about obviously with tennis, we have ITF, we have the WTA, the ATP, right? That's the three main governing bodies, and they are connected. ITFs are the ones that run the Grand Slams, for those that don't know, and ATP is the men's tour, WTA is the women's tour, but they are connected.
Yep.
Great. In pickleball, there are, oh gosh, she knows where I'm going. I'm trying my best to word this properly, okay? There are tours not only in the US, but there are other ones too coming about, right?
Correct.
China, I think, is going to be a big contender eventually. I know India is very much into
Yes.
pickleball. That's two of the very big ones. How do you feel about all these organizations, international, not international, coming around? And what do you think is going to happen in the future with that?
So
Mm.
I do spend a lot of times working with some of the associations and some of these, working directly with like the governments and how it goes. And so I've definitely understand like direction of like where they're going and
Right.
the plans, and you see the success rates. And so we have tours and then we have associations and federations. And I
Hmm.
think that gets kind of tricky. And so I think there's definitely some flaws in our current systems. I think and I'm talking like across the board. Like, I think it's a tricky one. These tours, they do put a lot of money in. PPA is doing a good job expanding internationally. And I think that's
Right.
going to honestly be the question is, because PPA has expanded a lot recently, and that is a huge focus right now. And so it's almost like we're still in this race of like what's going to happen. And it does have a lot to do, like what PPA has done very well is they've branded like immensely. We've got MLP. There's, it's kind of there. I've seen some of these tours. I've seen some of the options, the ways that people make money. So like, let's say in Vietnam, like you can, so let's say Mari, you're done with your contract. Okay. So I'm just going to go to Vietnam and I'm not going to sign anything. And I'm just going to have an option to play maybe 5 tournaments up in a week. And at those tournaments, I can earn a minimum of $2,000 to like $5,000. And these don't even have to be like big events. So like, now you have players that have like those options that, yes, I would make way more money if I went to Asia right now and just live there. And I've thought about it. And because I actually love Asia. I love the people. I love all that. But I think like I've got to focus right now on, some things. And so I don't know, like APP just announced that, bigger tour kind of thing in China. And I mean, I've gone and I've met, like, I've seen how they're developing. And I'm like, gosh, the
Hmm.
focus and just the money like that's being spent. Now there's a huge amount of money, and that's going to
Right.
be an important factor of what happens in the next 2 years. Like how is that money spent? Because like when you go to Vietnam, the money is there. Like it's
Mm.
there in China, it's there. So it's easy to kind of keep going. Like you saw the shows, like the pre-shows that they do. Like, I mean,
Oh,
I'll tell
yeah.
you one of my best my best experiences. They picked me up at the airport in Vietnam, and I am terrible. Like right now I need a haircut. Like I always get a haircut anytime I'm doing like I'm going to go present or do anything, and I didn't cut my hair. And she doesn't speak English, but she's, sort of communicates with me. And they're like, she's telling the other guy to tell me I need a haircut. I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry. Like, it's just off. I know. I'm like, I just didn't have time. I went from here to here. Like, she's like, okay, and so they're like, okay, just okay. So they took my bags to the airport, took my bags to the hotel, took me to her salon, and she cut my hair, the best haircut I've ever had in my life. And I got a great
Wow.
massage right afterwards. Like, so immediately from the haircut, you go over the bench and the other person washes your hair and gives you a massage. Like,
Oh my god.
That's the life.
this is amazing. Like, come on. And it's like, it's just, yeah, completely. It's because cost of living, let's say in Vietnam, is low. Like, it's so now you have like the ability to spend on technology and those types of things. And
Right.
India is coming hard. Now there's more recognition with the government. There's we look at the structures of the ITF and it makes sense because there's rules and regulations. And that's, I think, a big factor, with, the UPA is trying to kind of form that. I've had a lot of discussions with them about like, what would it look like to really be the governing body? I think what's happened, a lot of people in like groups in pickleball, they've formed like these governing bodies, but they don't have a lot of experience in it,
Right.
in like, the real world, like in like the ITF, like in these other governing bodies. And so like I've had to sit with governing bodies and say, listen, these are basic requirements if you're going to be a governing body. And I don't think I should be explaining that to you. I don't have an answer. Like I think it's kind of exciting because I feel like I keep hearing about like, hey, this may happen. Like I keep hearing from like random people all over the world, like this is
Right.
what I'm doing. And I'm just like, that's great. Like that's amazing that like you're here. And I would love to do that. Like, so I think we're going to keep being surprised, honestly, with some of this innovation and, the players. Like I think that's good for the sport.
So you're saying the best we have here is Jeffrey. And over there, not only are they doing pregame shows, but they're giving you haircuts
Yeah.
before and they
Yeah,
must have
Sarah,
seen
what are
my
you doing here?
yeah.
Get to
What are you
Asia.
doing?
Like,
Come on. Come on.
I do feel stupid sometimes.
Make better decisions. Okay, Nikki, I have one more and then I'll let
Go
you
for it. Go
you
for it.
ask your questions. Okay, Sarah, Nikki, and I have decided that you are the president of pickleball all over the world. Okay, you
Okay.
have unlimited money, you have
Done.
unlimited resources. What do you do for the sport?
Equipment is the thing. Like we need access to equipment. It's ridiculous how many people can't even get courts or nets or balls or paddles. You think about like what access like cheap paddles are. Like they're those wood
Right.
paddles that are awful. And so like we've been really talking to paddle companies like how do we make a paddle that's like super cheap but playable and accessible? And so the first thing is accessibility. We need to make the sport more accessible. And honestly, if, like my goal in 2018, when I joined like I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna focus on PPR. I'm gonna do this coaching thing. Said my goal is I want it to be accessible everywhere in the US that you can go take a pickleball lesson as easily as you take a tennis lesson. Like that was my goal in 2018. And I feel like that's pretty reasonable right now. Like we're not quite
I
there,
think so. In
but
the US, I
yeah,
think so.
so I think like that's huge. And so that's why I think education is more important than anything in the sports. And that's what most countries, when they talk to me, like that's what they want help with. We need to be able to structure education so that we could teach our kids that they can have like goals from this is what we do from here, put it in schools, and then, creating the club system and whatnot. And so that's a big part. And a lot of countries, like we see, they can't afford, access to that. I know I had sometimes been restricted. Like I can't necessarily come and do that because it financially, budget wise, it doesn't make sense. And so
Right.
it's when you make decisions based on budget a lot, it's difficult, so I think that access to that growth is big. And then, because I think that comes into then, this is how we form associations, federations. This is how you get a membership. Why do you need a membership? Because it creates a community, because you're creating resources and leagues and tournaments and structure. And so I think a lot of these countries that have their leaders in pickleball, some of them have like crazy backgrounds. And all of a sudden they're like leading pickleball in a country. Like I'm like, wow. And then you have some that have like no experience. They're like, I'm really just like, I need as much help as I can get. Like they have no resources. I think it's creating that like network of like, again, we need a leading governing body that has rules and regulations, that has standards that then all the countries agree on, but they all have voting abilities. And so I think that's where some of the struggle has come with some of these is the voting structures and how that works. And so there needs to be more equality and communication across those. And then that's going to help us get into universities and create that more, broad system, in my opinion.
Sarah, it sounds like you haven't given this much thought before. You've never thought
Nice one,
about any
Nikki.
of this stuff. Congratulations on the new role, by the way, of president of pickleball and over the entire
Thank you.
world.
I like this. I got to change my,
Hey,
my
I
link.
told you, I wanted to hear a free range. You can do whatever you want, and that was a good answer.
That was a really good answer. The whole time I'm like, how do we just make this happen already? That was incredible. I don't want to cut you short on the international talk because truly we could and probably will need more episodes on this. So I think we're going to have you back to talk about this, Sarah, because the sport is growing.
It
And
is.
not only here, it's growing internationally. So international pickleball, we are going to be talking about lots and lots and lots more to come for sure. But I want to switch gears a little bit because, I am the founder of the Pickleball Joy Pledge. I am all about the excitement, the passion, the happiness, the community of this sport and bringing that back, right? Because a lot of players, especially the further along they get into the sport, the more they lose it. I don't ever want to see the sport become tennis where it's very toxic and the crash outs are insane and the competition and sure, everybody might have their different perspectives on crash outs, but I want pickleball to continue to be fun. It's called pickleball. Like there should be a competitive element, absolutely, but there should always be that joy. And so the reason why I bring this up, Sarah, is you made a post recently about kind of this topic. And I don't even know when the original post was, but I actually just recently saw a video, I think it was last week or the week before, from a guy named Chris Callie. And Sorry Not Sorry Pickleball. A lot of folks know him by that name. And so Chris called out your post. And so I want to just mention what the post is. I don't want to read the entire thing. We'll flash it up on the screen now, but let's stop pretending this isn't happening. It says, bad behavior on the pickleball courts is driving people away, not beginners, not soft players, people. And you talk about yelling, targeting, throwing paddles, making others uncomfortable. You're the problem, all of this, right? And Chris Callie sees this post that you made on Instagram and he calls you out about being, I don't know, the wrong direction of pickleball and actually calls you tennis, saying that you were very too proper, saying that you were British, lots of things in there. I don't know if you saw the video. Anyways, I wanted just ask you your take. If you want to tell us more about that post, if you want to tell us more about your take on Chris's reaction to the post, maybe even starting on what inspired the post to begin with. Where do you want to take this?
I didn't learn about the post until like they were like, "Hey, do you want to comment on this?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And so, like, first of all, like, I think if you're going to like take a post out of context and make an entire video about it and make it about something to further your whatever cause, like, I don't like that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Like, at least tag me on it. Like, don't hide. Like, don't hide when you're like literally making a whole post about me, which, wow, I mean, cool. Like, I don't think about it that much. But like, I will say, like, I think that was, so I had to like look back when when it was. And honestly, it was a weird week because I remember I was in Atlanta. I post like video, like teaching tips and whatever. I've been doing that for years. And then one guy like randomly, it's such a bad joke. It's like, this is a weird, like a Subaru commercial. So like what that is, it's it's a derogatory lesbian like joke. And so it's like,
Wait,
well,
somebody said that to
like,
you?
like under my comments. It was
On
just,
a comment?
yep.
Huh.
And
Hold
then,
on. We're gonna have to fact check this because not saying that it didn't happen, but somebody commented that on one of my posts also. I
Was
wonder
it
if
the
it's the
same
same
person?
person.
when I first, like, really, when I started getting popular back in the day with Utah, one of the reasons I actually pulled back from social media is there would be these trolls and they would, and all the women, they write the same things and stuff. And so like, I saw a lot of damage being created. This is super typical behavior. It's the profile. That's the trolling one, another one like that week, made like some like transgender comment. It was just such a weird, like, they were so random. So like there was like this, and so I made a post calling out this dude, basically like, listen, like, making like stupid old school like lesbian jokes when I haven't owned a Subaru since like 2021, like 2001. Like, come on, like, like,
Get with the times,
I
bro.
called
It's
it
not
out.
even my
I was
car.
like,
Yeah, you're late to the game, man.
so like, it's just like, you make a joke about it because like trolls are trolls. So usually I laugh about it because they're all idiots. And like, it's like the guy who thinks that like the 3-5 guy that thinks, hey, I'm going to go beat Mari because I'm a guy,
Hey, I
and
make a lot of money from those guys because
yeah,
they
exactly. I mean,
come
this
to
is
my
what I've been dealing with
streamies and stuff.
since the beginning of pickleball. Like, this is what I've been dealing with since day one. But lately, let's be real, like, is that the bullying that goes around pickleball is out of control. And so,
Preach.
to remind you, there was an incident, like, so that week, I had like quite a few people send me stories after that post. And they sent me stories of like situations that happened in a park, like in a recreational game. Like, and they were people who I no longer play pickleball. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I made some friends,
Wow.
and then some people who like, I just, this is how I deal with it. I had a pastor get called a stripper from a coach, like, and then this one story where this was really pushed off is that this recreational player, like, they clashed paddles with their partner, and everybody stood around watching the partner, this older man, and the only like yell in this person's face and scream at them, and everyone's just standing around and like, and just, nothing. There's a story the other day in Florida. This woman literally was like, like slamming pickleballs at people like watching? Like, what is wrong with you? So essentially, like, this dude makes a whole video. So mind you, okay, you're talking about, so because I did end up watching like as much as I could. He's talking about, well, Julian Arnold, it makes it entertain, like, well, that's entertainment. That's not athletics. Like, like there is a line of that. And we see that. Like there are times like, Mari, you chirp a little bit, but there's respect to it. There's not like,
I try to never cross the line.
yes,
That is, yeah.
there's a line, because chirping and stuff that can be like sport and like whatever. I mean, there's definitely, I'm all about like some like, but when you're relying on gamesmanship, number one, for your skill, that's completely different. Like I feel like Mari, you have the skill to back it up when you chirp,
Thank
and
you.
so like I do feel that. And like, yes, you and I come from tennis. So I
Right.
believe it says if you like tennis, you're British. I think you're
Mhm.
British. And
I
so
think I am Brazilian. I think you're American.
I'm Irish too,
Irish?
but I'm
Nice.
American.
I'm a
Yeah,
little German too.
half and half, it's like, yeah. So if you think that of tennis, you don't know anything about tennis. And so like, that's like, if you've ever known competitive tennis at the professional level or anything, then you would never say comments like that. And so like, yeah, okay, cool. I don't care what you do. Like that's you, like what pros do. I'm not talking about pros. I'm talking about like, I'm not talking about Julian. I'm talking about Bob down the road who
Yeah.
bullies Susie every time he comes to the courts. Like, and everybody just
Mhm.
stands around and does nothing about it. And like at the club I used to run, all my staff had rules. Like, and we would, anytime we had open play, we had rules. Like it was, we're here for fun. I get stories from like people like all over the country, all over the world about awful, awful
Mm.
that are happening at pickleball courts. Like we have freaking people going to jail because they're arguing about a footfall. Like what's wrong with you that's your
The
life?
brawl, the
Like,
Florida brawl that everybody heard about
Oh
recently,
my
it made
gosh.
the news. My God.
I mean, so if he wants to make a video defending bullying, like that's what you're doing. That's all
Mhm.
that's what you're doing. So you don't know the context there. Probably didn't read any of the comments from people on like what we're talking about or like
Right.
where it's coming from. You see something and you want attention and you want it to be about like all these new rules with PPA, which like mind you, we have more experience than you do with. And so like you have a lot of people that want to make noise about stuff that they don't really
Yeah.
know like what it is. And so that's never going to change. And
Mhm.
it's always going to be like, let's be real, it's always going to be worse for us as women. It's a
Mm.
completely different scenario. A fact that you may like, Mari, is pickleball, like from a coaching standpoint, it's still a male dominated sport.
Hmm.
Pickleball has one of the highest percentages of female coaches out there. And so like
Love that.
out of all,
Yes.
is it going down though? It is because
Mm.
have this like male ego, like, like macho brawl, whatever y'all want to do, that it's somehow okay now to scream in
Mhm.
people's faces and like make a problem because you want to win a match. Like, dude, like we're playing pickleball. Like you're not making money. Like we're not like it's not. I mean, you could go through, you're still not making money. The contracts are designed differently. Like it's just like, come on. I was floored that like this
Yeah.
dude made a whole video about this. And that also people, again, I read some comments of it. I'm like, again, like you're taking one thing out of context and you want to create some drama. Like, cool. Like that, if that's what you want, then good, good for you. It took me 3 weeks to see it because you're not like willing to, at least
Shots
put it
fired
out
again.
there.
Shade,
Like,
shade.
Get him,
No
Sarah.
sun around here.
I mean,
Yes. So much
I mean, I get
shade.
like, I guess I've been around this game for so long. I have seen some stupid, crazy stuff. Like,
Sure.
and so
Yeah.
just, remember, I started pickleball before like social media was as big. So we had some
Yeah.
stuff like going on that people never knew about, like, and that
Mhm.
really could have been detrimental to like a lot of people's careers, like if it was
Right.
today. And
Yeah.
so, like, it was very different when I came in. I was like the only lesbian, like, I was the only gay person. Like, it was a very conservative sport. It was
Mm.
like, is based in Utah and Arizona. So like it was, it was interesting. Like, I got to meet a lot of different people, but I made a decision very early on that I'm going to be true to who I am and not like, I want to as much as possible lead by example. And
Mhm.
so like I can talk trash and I can like get into stuff. And like I've had moments where I'm like, I could put a video out right now and I could say, what happened, or I can say, these things. Does it help? Really? No. It's not bringing, what it's doing is it's bringing more attention to the negative. I think lately I've been a little fed up with some of these stories
Mhm.
and kind of like these voices that are struggling. And so like I think it's a little bit of our responsibility, like as leaders in an industry to try to set a better standard of what basic behavior should be on a pickleball court. Because pickleball is like not tennis doesn't mean you can be an asshole. Like that's not what it means. Like, yeah, pickleball is more fun. Like that's why we all love it. We do that, but that doesn't give you permission to just be an asshole. And
Yeah.
it's because kids are now seeing this. Like kids are now doing this behavior, and I've watched 14
Mm.
year
Right.
old
Mm,
yelling
mm,
at
mm.
14-year-olds, and like you're seeing this and you're like, gosh, like, well, if we stop showing this example, then maybe they'll stop doing this as well. But we need rules.
Yeah. So many. Oh my God. So many. How many episodes are we going to do with you, Sarah? Because we could talk about all this stuff for so long. So a couple of things come to mind here. Number one, his post was that video was about new rules, right? And so he's talking about the pros, and I do think that there's still relevancy in what you're talking about in your post.
Yeah.
Even to the pros, to what you just
Yeah.
said, folks, there's all this stuff about crash outs and paddle throwing. If it touches, even if it's not the intention, if it touches lightly, very lightly touches a fan, then you're disqualified. Hunter Johnson. So I think that what you just said, you just nailed it. It's the principle here. It's the example that you're setting for these kids watching. And I actually think that behavior is more like tennis than pickleball.
Yeah.
There are so many kids. I always say that, tennis is a beautiful sport, but it's also a very toxic sport. Mental health, there's a lot of issues. There are kids that are being brought up and just pounded into their brains to be so perfectionist, right? And pickleball, a lot of people leave tennis for pickleball because of its lightheartedness, because it
Yep.
is so fun. And I think that there is an element of crash out culture, which is fun to watch. It's entertaining, absolutely. But I think that there's an element of crash out culture that is actually ruining the sport of pickleball, the joy of pickleball. And I think all of that at a pro level is what it is, but it absolutely cannot translate to rec level.
Yeah.
And when that hits the rec courts, and you said something that was super, super important. You talked about clubs. Like, no club owner should ever allow that behavior in
Yep.
their club.
No.
Mm.
Yeah.
I want to make clubs. That's something that I'm working on down the road, is making clubs Pickleball Joy certified, where you walk into a club and if you see that sign, that is not happening. That shit ain't happening in my club. And I want to see more of that, because I've traveled definitely all over the country. Now, some places in the world, you guys have seen this even more than me in different clubs. And I've seen, and I'm a rec player. And so they treat me definitely different than when you walk into a club. It's going to be a different vibe. So I get to see the real stuff of how people are behaving and how people are treating each other. And I get to see some clubs that are amazing, so welcoming, so wonderful. And I get to also see the opposite. And I'm like, that ain't pickleball. So
Yeah.
your post to me speaks volumes to what's happening in the sport that needs to stop. That
Yeah.
we can, because it is still in its infancy, we can stop that now, shut it down. So I really appreciate that you said that. You also, just one other thing I want to mention. You mentioned, and I know that it's so tough when you get certain trolling, you get certain types of commentary that you don't want to feed into the negative. And I totally get that. But I do think that there is so much value in your voice as a leader in the sport to share some of that. So I'm glad you're talking about that. I appreciate you talking about that here on this podcast. And I hope you can continue when you feel comfortable doing so, because so many people don't realize that that's a real thing.
Yeah.
The types of trolling that we receive, women receive it,
Oh, yeah.
right? The LGBTQ community receives it. Like, people don't realize how common, how
Yeah.
regular this is. And it's not our jobs to have to go and educate everyone and tell everybody teach everybody, but to some extent there is some obligation there to share that out. So I appreciate you mentioning that. The very last thing I'll say is that his name on YouTube is Sorry Not Sorry, so I'm assuming he's not going to backtrack on anything that he said, but I'm going to give him a chance. Chris Callie, if you want to come on the pod and you want to share your side of this and share your perspective, by all means, come hang out with us. Let's talk about it. Maybe we'll have
We
you
usually
and Sarah
end up
on.
supporting the women, by the way. So,
Yes.
Chris Callie, it's going to be bad odds for you, but do your thing.
Let's bring the shade. Let's bring that shade
Sarah,
back.
thank you for sharing. And I do agree that this starts from the pro level, but the name of our podcast is 99% Pickleball, but pickleball is currently 99% not pro. So yes, it does start from the pro level. Something that I pride myself in is being a good example and someone that I tried my best to play fair and be good on court and just be positive with my partners, especially. I
Yep.
don't understand the being rude or eye rolling or, like, what are you doing? You're going to make them better by doing that? Anyways, I appreciate you
Thank
sharing that.
you.
And yes, it does start from the pro world, but if you are comfortable, or if you have friends around you and you see a situation that makes you uncomfortable, speak up or stop inviting that person around. Like that's a toxic person. Let's cut them off.
Yep.
Yeah,
You know?
here in New York, we like to say it's all over the subways. If you see something, say something.
I
So
mean, I mean, anytime I got someone on the court, I've seen it time again that being a jerk to their partners. I'm like, come on, like, it's just, what's your point? Dude, we're playing pickleball. Like, come on. And
come
I have my
on.
days playing with like jerks on the court who treat you awful. And then I'm like, there's a point, I'm like, this is just, I'm just done. Like, it's just not worth it anymore to be kind of in that environment. It doesn't make anybody better. It doesn't help anybody. Like, it sucks.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having this conversation because it is a very real conversation. It's an interesting way that we got here with the video that was posted, but I think that this conversation needs to be more talked about. Talk about how we even mistreat people based on their duper ratings a
Yep.
lot. I'm like, come on, people, right? Remember, it's just pickleball. And also, you're probably not going pro. 99% of us are out there, right? We're going to be hanging on the rec courts. We're not even going pro. Why are we taking this so seriously? Like, let's have some
Yep.
fun out there. Why are we letting this, dictate so much of our negativity? Anyways, so thank you so much for sharing that. I hope to hear more from you about not necessarily this topic, but just the positivity, right? I expect that, you're going to continue moving the sport in the right direction. So I just want to thank you for the post that you made because that's I mean, I actually think I even
I saw that.
reposted.
I did because I had to look back at it today, and I was like, "What? When
Oh
was
wow.
that?" Like,
Yeah.
I just-
I reposted it. I put it on my story back at the time when you posted it because I was like, yes, this is pickleball joy. We need more of this. So thank you for that. Mari, you said this is 99% pickleball. So on this podcast, not only are we talking to 99% of the pickleballers and the 1%, of course, we also talk mostly about pickleball, 99%. But we also reserve 1% of something that's not pickleball. So, Sarah, what we're about to do is ask you a question that is not pickleball related at all. And we'll talk about it for a minute. Mari, do you have a question in mind?
Yeah, I can always come up with something, Nikki. You can always count on me for that. All right. We talked about shows in the first one. So here I want to ask Sarah, what is your favorite concert you've ever been to live and why?
Yeah.
Oof, that's a good one. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. It would have to be here in Clearwater with my wife. And it's usually like a reggae kind of thing. So you got like some, wait, holy crap.
Change your mind?
What's
Before
happening?
you even said it,
Mid sentence, change of mind.
Hey, that actually gives you some backstory though. So my wife's a big reggae person, so we've gone we always go every to like Slightly Stupid in Clearwater, and it's got this like great place on the water. I brought her to San Diego with me for work, and so we were staying down by. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, babe, it's a 3-day like this. All of our favorite bands are like here for 3 days. I'm working for most of it, but like I'm on the pickleball
Yeah.
court, whatever." And so, but we were like, okay, but like and she's like, I don't know, I'm not like we're not gonna spend the money on that right now, like whatever. But what she did was she set up like right across the bay. Like you don't actually like most people set up across the bay and you hear the music. You're just not like in the fest. So for like 2 nights, like we got to see like some of our like favorite bands that we've seen like at multiple other places at like just randomly like on the pier or whatever listening to it. So I would say that was a great
Wow.
experience. Yeah.
what can you give us a couple of names of those bands?
So like Slightly Stupid, Sublime, like wow, I'm like Camp. I'm
Those are
like,
good.
these
These are all
That's pretty good.
these are all
I
pretty
like that
good.
you weren't even inside the concert. That's
Yeah,
even
I think
better
that's good,
because
like-
like you were outside of it.
I think
Stick it to the man.
it was a cool experience with my wife, and then we met some people, like we put a bonfire and we all kind of like hung out like and chilled like on the water. It was kind of it was not as crowded as it would have been like in the show. So yeah, I think it was a cool experience. One of my favorite
That's
places in San
incredible.
Diego. So
Great answer.
All right, that was a great answer. See, that's why we reserve our 1%. Do you want to know our answers too?
Oh my gosh. Now we're on the spot. Mari,
Nikki,
do you
you
have one in
first.
mind?
I mean, I have so many I've been to that I loved.
Man.
I think my first ever concert, which is kind of crazy that it was my first ever, was Madonna in
nice,
São Paulo
nice
with my family. So that was pretty cool. That's just hard to like.
Ooh,
I,
yeah.
I wouldn't even say her music is my favorite or anything. It was just like such a cool and unreal experience to see Madonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first one that came to mind. I've been to quite a few that I've enjoyed. So
Honestly, one of my like before that, I would have said Bette Midler. Bette Midler is one of the best
Ooh.
shows I have ever been to. Amazing entertainment.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is a great one. I really wanted to see Madonna when I was a kid. My mom wouldn't let me. She's like a diehard Catholic, and she thought it was so sacrilegious. And I was like, come on. So I
My
did
parents were like,
finally,
we're taking you.
yeah, I was like, man, your parents are awesome. No, I have seen Madonna a few times now, so I've made
Nice.
up for it. But I would have to say it wasn't my first concert either. And I've been to far, far more concerts than I can count. So many. I used to work in the music industry, so that was a big part. But I
Oh,
have to say one of my early ones was the Spice Girls. And I am a,
Wow. That's
that was
yeah,
a good
awesome.
show.
yeah, I saw the Spice Girls in 1998. It was their last American tour date in Dallas, Texas. There was no Jerry Halliwell, so I did not get to see Ginger. She left about 1 month before, which I was devastated about, by the way. And yeah, but fun fact about me, I'm a gigantic Spice Girls fan. I am such a Spice Girls fan that I actually know their voices so well that when they are singing together and harmonizing, I know who's singing when.
It's amazing.
So fun fact, fun fact.
That's the year I saw them. I saw that same tour, but I did see
Spice World. Spice World. It was the
yep,
Spice World tour. Yeah. Where'd you see him?
in Portland, Oregon, and I got free tickets or something. But it was a freaking amazing show. Like,
Yeah.
There's some artists that are just really good live and others that aren't. Like Beyonce, besides being 3 hours late, she was great. Like I really
yeah,
enjoyed that one.
3 hours.
Ed Sheeran is insane. I mean,
yeah,
he's just on his own. Like that was awesome.
yeah,
But then there's others that I'm like, ugh,
yeah. Like I
no,
saw Elton John, and like
not good.
just the sound there wasn't good, and it was like a big show. Like it was like it was a big tennis event. Yeah, it was disappointing. It's yeah. There's definitely been some like
Some not so good. I will say the one that surprised me. So I actually was not a Swiftie until I went to the Eras tour, and because my partner really loves Taylor Swift and she's more of a Swiftie, and so I was like, okay, sure, why not? We didn't buy the tickets until 15 minutes before the show. We
What?
flew to Indianapolis without tickets, bought tickets right before the show, and again, I knew her music, I knew some of it, but I didn't know like lyrics and stuff. I was so captivated and blown away by that show.
That's
I'm
what
a
everyone
Swiftie now.
says.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm a Swiftie now. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would totally see that show. Yeah.
That
I
was
would love to. I
mind
haven't done
blowing.
that one yet.
You can
Yeah.
watch it on Disney Plus.
This is not an ad.
But it could be Disney Plus. Oh man. Ooh, good stuff. 99% pickleball, 1% everything else, anything else. Sarah, I hope that you've enjoyed your time with us as much as we've enjoyed with you. I cannot wait for episode 3, 4, 5, 6. Anytime you want to come back and talk because we can chat lots.
Yeah.
Mari, you got any final words?
No, just thank you again, Sarah. I might hit you up with more international questions. I'm just generally so curious about that
Absolutely.
topic. I'm assuming we're gonna eventually end up working together on some of this
Yeah.
stuff because it's just gonna happen, you
Yeah.
know?
I think so.
But yeah,
I
I
got
will and I'll keep doing my best fighting off trolls online too. I like to
Yes.
respond to them with sass. So I might just start forwarding you my
Oh
answers
yeah.
because you might appreciate those
I
too.
love it. Do that.
Let's do it. Let's get the group chat going with all the sass.
Yes.
I love that.
Sarah, where can our listeners, if they haven't already, come on, you should have already heard of Sarah, but if they have not heard of you, where can they find you on socials?
Sarah Ansboury, sarahansbury.com, all that good stuff. I'm pretty
And
simple.
is it on Instagram, TikTok,
Instagram, Facebook,
YouTube,
all of it.
Facebook?
YouTube,
Amazing.
a big channel there, just Sarah Ansboury, and TikTok, all that stuff.
Beautiful. So now everyone listening is going to follow you instantly. So thank you so much.
I actually got a bunch of new followers with that sorry not sorry thing for some. No, I
Good
didn't
data.
realize it, like, but
You're like, what was the spike in follow? Oh wait, oh
Wow,
that's what it
that's
was.
amazing.
Yeah, because maybe you made a good point. Maybe that's why. Maybe your
woo,
post actually was pretty valid.
crazy.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. I can't
Thank
wait
you,
to chat
Sarah.
again. And woo, Mari, that was a conversation. Wow.
Definitely.
I think just like a wealth of knowledge, like so much knowledge there about every aspect of the sport. I gotta say, I was shocked about the Olympics answer. I wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't either, but she had a why. You know,
Yeah.
she had a good explanation. I think it's actually really cool to get to talk to someone that was in the game for that long, right?
Mm.
I mean, I started in 22. You're a baby when it comes to pickleball years. So you're not even on her scale yet of
No.
time. So
A blip.
it's just really it's really fun to hear it. I mean, I could have asked Sarah questions forever. So she was very patient and she took her time explaining everything. But I am genuinely super interested in the international growth of the sport being from a foreign country. And I just honestly, she's right. And she has some sense to her Olympics answer, but I hope that gets fixed somewhat
Mm.
quickly so we can get in there. But yeah, I think final take from me, Sarah is a wealth of knowledge. And if you are an organizer or someone that is looking to grow things the right way or wants a second opinion on things, reach out to Sarah. I think she's your girl. She can definitely help out. And she's flexible. She's reasonable. She'll be able to understand the need and hopefully solve your problems.
Yeah,
Just
I not
offering Sarah up here.
yeah, not even hopefully. I think we can practically put money on it that she can get you a good solution there. Wow, totally agree. I would say my final take was about the latter portion of our conversation, and that's that. I mean, there's so many takes, but really that there is a potential problem that's happening out on the courts, and I think it is so incredible. There's a couple of problems, but calling out the bullying, calling out the negativity, calling out the toxicity is a much needed aspect for leaders and top voices in this sport. And so I really just commend her for doing that. I commend her for taking some heat on that video and coming out here and course correcting, right? Calling it out and also explaining the real meaning behind the video because it hadn't,
Mhm.
otherwise we might not have heard about that. So I just want to it's not always easy. Sometimes it's easy to just like sweep things under the rug. So I appreciate that she came over here, said it like it was, and called it out. And I think her take is on chirping was interesting. What you think about that, Mari?
Yeah, I think so too. I think my style of chirping, I wouldn't even say it's chirping. It's a lot of times just like stating what happened and making someone laugh about it. I often make my opponents laugh and my partner laugh. But yeah, I think crossing that line is where we need to be careful, right? There is a line that shouldn't be crossed in comments, during rec play, during pro play, just in any situation, even talking to refs, whatever it might be. There's just lines that shouldn't be crossed, and there are things that we should know, right? This is just common courtesy and just being a good person. So yeah, if you see something, say something, especially on the courts. Let's speak up and not allow these things to get worse because the last thing that we want to see is people getting out of the sport that we all love because of bad attitudes, right? Because of bad
Yeah,
situations.
I'm all for a good, fun, respectful chirp. I'm here for a respectful chirp. Let's have some fun out there. I'm a chirp. I'm not as much of a chirper as I used to be in my back in my day. So, but as long as it's done in a playful, respectful way, then I'm like here for it. Mari, I mean, do you think Sarah was calling out chirping? Was she calling you out for a reason?
Nah, maybe. Well, yes, there was a recent experience. Yeah, I mean, Nikki can't know things about me, and then she makes me talk about them. But yeah, recently Sarah had the courage, the audacity to come coach against me in a tournament. Can you believe
Whew.
that, Nikki?
Why would she do that?
So rude. But yeah, anyways, the match did not go her way. My partner and I ended up winning the match. So after the match, I walked up to Sarah and I was like, wow, like, I don't think you did a very good job there. Like, what were you telling them? And we just had a fun conversation. But yeah, I chirped the coach. That
Chirp
is
the
a line that
coach.
I am willing to cross.
Yeah. Here's the thing is like you could have a good laugh, she could have a good laugh at that. You guys did it respectfully and I think that's the right way to do it and that's how to again continue to grow the sport positively. Sorry for putting you on the spot. I appreciate you Sarah, sharing that. So this was an incredible episode. This is our first guest. We are so excited to have had Sarah on the show and many more guests to come, amazing
Hmm.
guests to come. That just about does it for this episode, but you know what? Don't forget to follow us online. You can follow us on Instagram, 99 Pickleball. Remember, it's no percentage sign there, just 99 Pickleball. Listen to this podcast anywhere that you can find podcasts. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You can actually watch the conversation on YouTube, and we will be back again next Thursday, right back here on your speakers. So can't wait for the next, whatever the next going to happen, Mari.
That was almost great, Nikki. We will take it. See you next week.